You are listening to Leaders and Legends, a podcast presented by Veteran Strategies, an Indiana-based public relations enterprise, and federally certified veteran-owned small business. I'm your host, Robert Vane, along with our producer, Chris Spangle. Our podcast is featured on the All Indiana Podcast Network in partnership with Wish TV. You may find Leaders and Legends at allindianapodcastnetwork.com. Thinking of starting a podcast or need to host a public meeting? Let Leaders and Legends, LLC be your partner as you look for new ways to communicate your message. Please contact us at chris@leadersandlegends.net. As always, all our podcast interviews are dedicated to the legacy and generosity of P.E. McAllister. Thank you for joining us on the Leaders and Legends podcast. We are presented by Veteran Strategies, an Indiana-based public relations enterprise and federally certified veteran-owned small business. I am your host, Robert Vane. Our producer is Chris Spangle. Became a father for the third time. God love him. Spangle really should be doing this interview considering how well he knows Dr. Rob Shumaker. Thinking of starting a podcast or need to host a public meeting? Let Leaders and Legends LLC be your partner as you look for new ways to communicate your message. Please contact us at chris@leadersandlegends.net. Our podcast is featured on the All Indiana Podcast Network in partnership with Wish TV. You may find Leaders and Legends at allindianapodcastnetwork.com. Our guest today, he's the president and the CEO of the Indianapolis Zoo, has been associated with the Indianapolis Zoo for several years, to say the least, and I am embarrassed to say this is the first time I met him. Dr. Rob Shumaker, thank you for being a guest on the podcast.
My pleasure. I'm glad we fixed it. Nice to meet you in person.
So Jake Oakman works for you.
He does.
But yet I interviewed him more than a year ago. Did you not listen to that podcast?
I did, and I decided he's worth the risk.
Really? We all think that about Jake. Is that what it is? High risk, high reward?
He's a good man.
He's absolutely one of the best, and we all love him.
We are fortunate to have him now at the zoo. He manages all of our externally facing departments, PR, fundraising, creative services, you name it. No, he is a good man. The zoo's very lucky to have him, and I enjoy working with him immensely.
It took about 3 years, but he finally got over me beating him in a trivia contest in Broad Ripple. You also have, I must mention, a wonderful employee, because I don't know many of them, but I do know this one, Linda Swinford.
Linda's also terrific. Ultimately works for Jake Oakman. But yeah, Linda's fantastic.
Linda does some work for me.
Oh, there you go.
On occasion. And true patriot, along with her husband.
Very good.
Zoos. Where are zoos in the pantheon of visitor experiences? Museums, beaches. Indianapolis says we don't have mountains, we don't have beaches. How can a zoo help attract business, investment, visitors?
That's a great question. I'm glad that you asked it, and that's not the place where most people start talking about zoos, so I like that a lot. To talk about zoos, the first thing, and to answer your question, the first thing is to differentiate zoo, because zoo gets used a lot. So if you want to have a zoo of your own, you can do that if you have a USDA license in the U.S. And a USDA license, of course, is important and guarantees a minimum standard for your zoo, but it's a low bar in terms of the quality of what you manage and what you produce and what you offer. So there are a large number of quote-unquote zoos in the United States that have a USDA license, so they can call themselves that. But within the U.S., there's a subset of zoos that are the accredited zoos. They're accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. We call it AZA. It's our professional accrediting organization. It's the highest standard any zoo or aquarium can reach anywhere in the world. Most of the AZA institutions are in the U.S., some are outside of the U.S., and there's give or take about 250 total. So those are the zoos that I'm qualified to talk about. When you ask the question about a zoo contributing to the local economy or cultural environment or standard of living, I think of accredited zoos or aquariums in that equation, and they are immensely important in terms of what they do for a local community. We have in Indianapolis about 1.25 million visitors that come to our zoo every year. Now, that is more than any other single entity in the cultural community or the sports community in Indianapolis, for example. And we know that we bring in millions and millions of dollars into the local economy every single year because we've measured it. And I'm not talking about economic activity or money moving around. I'm talking about money coming into the Indianapolis community that otherwise would not be there because we are here. So it is a hugely beneficial economic driver for our community, hugely beneficial for quality of life. And on a very practical level, we are the largest single green space in downtown Indianapolis. Very important for our city and for people and for our local environment. I know that we will talk about this later, but we also have a national and international impact. But your question was about the city, and I would say we are immensely important for the city of Indianapolis, and that is true for many of our sister institutions around the country.
Excuse me. The reason I brought that up first is because of this podcast is being recorded in early July, and it'll be posted probably later July. And while we don't usually timestamp our podcast or date stamp them, we're in the middle of what is a unique run of the country and the world looking at Indianapolis. Was this sort of partnership between the city, the zoo and the city, and the list goes on, the Pacers, the Colts, everybody, is this unique here in Indianapolis? Like so many things we do in the sports tourism world are unique. And are we lucky that maybe not the founding fathers of Indianapolis back in the late 60s and 70s, because I remember as a kid going to the zoo in Washington Park back in 70 whatever, early 70s. Are we lucky that they had that sort of vision to put it all together?
Yeah, it's a great point. Let me try and connect some dots. This is distinct, meaning our Indianapolis Zoo. It is distinct, and here's why. And I think what you were alluding to, if I missed it, please correct me. When you talk about the city, important to mention that we receive no support from any entity. We don't get any public money whatsoever. So we have no funding from the city, from the state, bond measures, any of that county. We don't get any of that. We are the largest accredited zoo in the United States that receives no public money. So we must be very entrepreneurial. We must be very business-minded. And I'm so happy you asked about that, because people assume all the time that our budget comes from the city. It does not. So that everything that we spend in a year, we earn. And we are financially extremely healthy in terms of how we operate. And that's important. It gives us the opportunity to really be a high quality destination for people in the city. And again, fantastic that you mention the zoo in Washington Park. Our organization started in 1964. And that the Indianapolis Zoological Society, and that was originally in Washington Park, and it was considered a very small children's zoo, very different than what we have today. Yeah.
Where's the pink elephant?
The pink elephant's gone. There was the Willie the Whale?
The whale.
Yeah, you could step inside and take your picture with a I don't know, fiberglass whale or something.
It was interesting to see some of the, not school groups, right, because it's July, but church groups and stuff here. And I just remember taking the bus up there and thinking I was on the other end of the world.
Yeah.
How do you mix, and I don't want to go off topic here a little bit, but how do you mix the excitement of a zoo of this size with the quaintness of a zoo where people feel comfortable? Not overwhelmed.
Isn't that the trick? And isn't it an insightful thing that you bring that up? And I believe that you do that with the exceptional experiences that every individual has when they come here. So we are certainly not the biggest zoo in the country in terms of land. There are some that are much bigger, and we're far from the smallest. But we are certainly a full day visit for people when they come here. And we also have a very robust member base here, mostly, almost entirely from Indianapolis and surrounding counties. And some of those people are super users. They might come here for an hour and leave, and they might come 50 more times a year. And those are the people that have the same kinds of experiences as the people that come from out of state that benefit our economy but want to spend the entire day here. They have fantastic personal experiences. It might be getting a chance to have a kangaroo come up and sniff your hand and you get a chance to pet a kangaroo, or you might get a chance to see bottlenose dolphins. There's the only place in locally that you can possibly do that. You can see animals up close. You can see animals in huge social groups. You can see things that really delight you, that really engage you. And so to answer your question very specifically, that is a driving force for us. We are constantly focused on the guest experience and constantly focused on innovation. So if we can find innovative ways to give someone an experience that they could not have anywhere else, or that they could not have anywhere nearby, I think we've done something very good, something beneficial for that person, something very beneficial for the zoo, and most importantly, something beneficial for attitudes about conservation. So our mission is to protect nature and inspire people to care for our world. Now, the protecting nature part is something we do through our conservation efforts around the globe, but inspiring people comes from exactly those remarkable experiences that you mentioned, and they're essential. But I want to get back to your bigger question, because I can tie together, I think, one of maybe your most important guests you've ever had. The zoo was relocated to downtown Indianapolis in 1988, opened in 1988. So we just celebrated an anniversary. It was in June 11th of 1988. And it was meant to anchor the redevelopment of the downtown. And it did. For anybody who hasn't been to the zoo recently, we're waiting for you. We hope you come down. But we are literally a 5-10 minute walk from the center of downtown. So we are right in Indianapolis. We are absolutely a city zoo. And the zoo did its job. We anchored the redevelopment of the downtown. And as the downtown continues, I would say today, to go through the next phase of redevelopment, Circle City Mall and so on. I don't even know if we should call it that anymore. I don't know what the new name is now. But all of that, the zoo becomes a very important part of that. The reason that the zoo is here in its current site is the vision of the founding fathers of the city, and vision's great as long as you can pay for it. And the reason we paid for it was a guy named Jim Morris, who was a very good friend of mine, as so many people can say, a wonderful mentor, and sorely missed in our city. And at the time, he was running the Lilly Endowment when the idea came up to place the zoo in the downtown to re-anchor the development of the city. And the endowment was asked to fund a major portion of that. And he agreed. And the story, and I know people who were on the board at the time, because they are still on our board. John Neighbors, for example, is still on our board. Katie Betley, for example, still on our board. People who cut the ribbon on the zoo when it opened here. When the estimate for the zoo came back in, it turns out it was about double what they originally projected. And amazingly, they went back to the endowment and said, we actually need to revise our request. And because of Jim Morris, it was funded. So we would not have the zoo where it is today and the level of quality it is today had it not been for people like Jim Morris and others who had the vision to propel us forward.
We've discussed, and we're going to get back to that a little bit, contributions, but I need to mention, only because I've known her, I haven't seen her in a long time. I met her in 1998, sergeant on the Marion County Sheriff's Department at the time.
Polly Hicks.
Polly Hicks has done as much as any one person could do for this establishment, for the zoo. And
I would even say it a little bit differently, and I don't think she would mind. Polly Hicks is a member of our board, a life trustee, a wonderful woman, someone who I feel privileged to call a friend and a donor here at the zoo and a supporter. But she has a distinction. She is the largest single individual donor in our zoo's history. Now, I'm not comparing her to endowments or foundations, for example,
Sure.
But for individual donors, she holds the distinction of today being the largest single individual donor to support our organization. And our Indianapolis Zoo would not be what it is today without Polly Hicks. That's certain.
I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned her and gave you a chance to thank her.
I'm glad you did.
Because she's remarkable.
She absolutely is.
You are listening to the Leaders and Legends podcast. Our guest today, President and CEO of the Indianapolis Zoo, Rob Shumaker. We are in the Elaine Beadle, or is it just the Beadle?
The Beadle Financial Studio.
The Beadle Financial Media Studio. Just shows how, and looking at some of the other names when I was walking into the building, you recognize so many of the names etched in concrete and beyond, actually.
It's interesting because we have a thought about our donors here at the zoo, and I've yet to hear a situation that does not conform to this. There's 3 reasons I think people donate to the zoo, or we collectively believe here. One is that they just love the zoo. They love animals. They love everything about it, and that's fantastic. Their mission and all that. That's fantastic. The second reason is that they care about the conservation work that we do around the world. And the third reason is maybe they don't have any particular interest in the zoo, but they care deeply about the city of Indianapolis, and they know that a city needs a good quality zoo. So they either care about one of those 3 reasons, 2 of them, or maybe all 3, but I've never found a donor here that doesn't care about one of those. And they have all fit in those categories one way or another. And so I think about that when we talk to people who are considering supporting the zoo. And of course, the best situation always is you never have to ask. People are compelled by your mission or compelled by your work or compelled by your accomplishments, and they want to be part of your organization and support that good work. And there's lots of organizations like that in Indianapolis, that's for sure. But we love it when somebody like Polly Hicks comes to us and say, I think that's a great idea. Can I help you with that?
You actually just anticipated my next question, which is, there are so many, just like any other big city, not-for-profit organizations, or however you want to, they say it these days, nonprofit or charitable. In PR, in public relations, I always tell my clients we have to message the delta. What's compelling? And if the delta, the difference between A and B isn't compelling, then it hurts.
Yep.
So I just won the lottery. I have $1 million to give away. And while it's not a harsh competition, it's at least a soft competition with the Eiteljorg and the Museum of Art and the Salvation Army. So I sit down in front of you. What's the zoo difference?
Yeah, I would actually tell you my attitude, and I don't know if my colleagues at those other organizations agree with me, but my attitude is a little bit different. I don't think we're in competition with any other organization in town. And here's why I say that. Our city deserves a robust and remarkable cultural community, all kinds of cultural assets, and we have that. Our city is big enough to manage that and support that, and it is vibrant. So my feeling is to use the old phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats. And the better the zoo does, the better Idledorg does, the better the State Museum does, the better the Children's Museum does, Conner Prairie, Newfields. I can go on many. The better we all do, the better it is for all of us. So I don't approach it as though we are in competition. And the other reason I would say that is I've never met a donor who said, gosh, I've got all this money. I don't know who I want to give that to. I don't know what I want to support. A donor always has some idea of what they want to support. And I would say this, and this is quite genuine. We don't start with an ask for a gift of support. We start with building a relationship. And now, trust me, we have had remarkable moments when very generous donors show up out of nowhere and we don't know them at all. And we've really never even talked to them. And they give us a remarkable gift. Those are fantastic, of course, but that's not the norm. The norm is we develop a relationship first. We find out what someone's interests are, and that's where we start. And so if we had that hypothetical where you had $1 million, I would want to know first, what interests you? What do you care about at the zoo? Are you interested only in supporting our local community, for example? And I'll give you a great example of something you could do. Would you like to support families who might otherwise find it challenging financially to come to the zoo? You could support our Go membership program. That's our program where we offer anyone who is facing a financial hardship a membership at an 85% discount, absolutely equivalent to any other membership in the city, something like that. Are you the kind of person that likes to have your name on a building? And there are those people who absolutely think that's the coolest thing ever. We can help with that for sure. And then there's the people that have always been completely anonymous. The last thing in the world they want is their name on a building somewhere. Are you interested in a particular species? Are you interested in the conservation support that we are doing around the world? And we're in countries all over the world, right here from Indianapolis. So my answer would be, let's talk about your interests first and see if we have a fit. If we don't have a fit, that's okay. We still appreciate your interest. We still hope you come to the zoo. We still hope you love us. And we really like that. If we do find a fit, let's go forward and find out, is there a fit that is compelling enough that you would like to offer us a gift for that kind of support? I can tell you that it's unbelievably rare to get to that point with a donor where they say, no, I've decided not to. It's usually very easy to find a fit for a donor for something that they find compelling and something that they want to support. So I would start with that conversation, probably over coffee or over lunch.
In college at political science class, thank you, Professor Bill Bloomquist, I learned the freedom-security trade-off. More freedom you have, less security, and vice versa. At a zoo, how do you manage the exhilaration safety trade-off? Because at a certain point, you have to limit activity because it becomes unsafe. The more activity you limit, the less exhilarating it is. And it's got to be tough because we've all seen the videos on social media where people are falling into the tiger pit or, oh, the hippo is so pretty.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Is that a difficult task to manage?
I'll tell you what I think is difficult, and you bring up social media. I think what's difficult about it is, let me think of the right word. The word I had in mind I don't want to use.
You can use it.
I'll use it in the real sense of the word. Social media is, in some ways, really perverts our understanding of animals. It really distorts, a better word, really distorts our understanding of animals and gives people the feeling that, yeah, you really should go up and try and pet that giraffe. Or no, it's okay.
I love it.
These
sorry, man. I just think
what's true.
These people go, these hill jacks. They just think that they've got, oh, did you see the video of the lion who came up and hugged the person who saved them when saved the lion was a cub?
That's right.
And then
And I'm not gonna offer any specifics, but there are videos on social media exactly talking about, oh, this chimpanzee was saved from this and this lion was saved. Look, I know who that person is, and it's a complete lie. That chimpanzee wasn't saved. It was purchased from a breeder, and it's being used to earn that person money. Okay, the backstory, but social media, of course, is a fantasy land in terms of those images, and I don't blame people because I recognize that I have a very unusual career and I have a very unusual background that has been and continues to be an absolute privilege, but it's very unique. And I don't blame people for embracing the information that they receive on social media because it's very appealing and it's very exciting. So we have to keep all that in mind when we design zoo exhibits. And I think for me, the most important thing is that we start by designing from the perspective of the animal that will be living there. Our new chimpanzee facility is a great example. Nothing like it anywhere else in the world. It is, and I can say this objectively, but also I'm not objective. It's the best chimpanzee facility in any zoo anywhere. Opened just a little over a year ago. The whole premise is that if you allow the chimpanzees to live like chimpanzees, meaning in a big, diverse, dynamic social group, 21 individuals so far, if you allow them to decide what they want to do, who they want to do it with, and where they want to do it, that is immensely engaging for visitors. And we can do all of that in a way that allows people to view the apes in a respectful and enjoyable and exciting way and in a thrilling way. And we do that all throughout the zoo. I'll give you another example, which I think is equally compelling, but very different. Every single day, 6 times a day, weather permitting, we have flocks of macaws. Our biggest flocks have about 20 individual macaws in them that fly through the zoo. They fly from one end of the zoo to the next, land on a set of perches as part of a scheduled event to educate people about macaws and macaw conservation. They hang out, have some treats, and then they fly back through the zoo, totally unenclosed. And if you wanted to see something like that anywhere else, the closest you could find that would be, for example, Costa Rica. It doesn't exist anywhere else. That was an extraordinary and innovative thing that we wanted to do here, and we did it. And it is unparalleled in terms of what that does for the quality of life for those macaws, but also for the people that come here and see that. So it is a constant effort for us to find ways to do things that are interesting, exciting, underline, innovative, and at the same time, safe.
You are listening to the Leaders and Legends podcast. Our guest today is Rob Shumaker. He is president and CEO of the Indianapolis Zoo. He's also the co-host of the Worth Your Time podcast.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Co-hosted by Christy Lee, masterminded by Chris Spangle.
He is our producer.
Dr. Shumaker earned his PhD at George Mason University. Basketball fan, are you?
I will tell you an embarrassing story. I was walking through the student center at George Mason University when the George Mason University basketball team was in, I think they're in the Final Four.
Final Four, yeah.
And I looked at my friend, and my friend looked at me, and we said, "We have a basketball team?" It was so under the radar. It was unbelievable. So that was several years ago for sure. Their prominence has changed quite a lot. But at the time, that was part of what was remarkable because they were so under the radar. They had a phenomenal year that year.
Not including Jim Morris.
Yes.
Who's about to be retired from this question, along with his BFF, Mitch Daniels. Is there a particular Hoosier leader and or legend you admire most?
Oh, wow. It is really rare for me to get a question I've never been asked before, especially when I'm talking about my profession. And that's a question that I've never been asked before. And honestly, if you had asked me that prior to this podcast, I would have brought up Jim Morris. So I'm very good friends with Jim's son Todd and their family. Yeah. And our kids were in school together, Todd's kids and my kids. And
Jackie's wonderful.
She's actually our neighbor. We just live a 2 or 3 minute walk from their house. And you mentioned earlier I'd been here for several years, so I'm approaching 16 years here at the zoo, and we moved here for this job, me and my family. And Jim and Jackie welcomed us to the community, to our neighborhood, and made us feel really good about being here. And I know this is true for a lot of people, but I've lost count of how many times Jim said to me or dropped me a note and said, "I'm proud of you." I think that's the kind of leadership I really admire, someone who's so humble, clearly did remarkable things for their community, but never lost that personal touch, never lost the desire to pull somebody aside and have a quick one-on-one and say, "Man, that was really good. I'm glad you did that. I'm proud of you." People don't do that enough. So I'd say for me, and this is probably more a personal answer than a professional answer, I'd put Jim in that spot.
Mm-hmm. So accepting Jim Morris.
Oh.
Jim Morris and Mitch Daniels are not available to be your favorite Hoosier leader and or legend. Only because that's the answer that everybody gives.
Yeah, but if it's the right answer, there's nothing wrong with it. It's the right answer. Gosh.
Jake Oakman, he's sitting right here.
I know Jake. I know his eyes. It's like lasers in the back of my head. He's staring at me right now. I'm glad you're pressing me on this. Give me a minute to think about it.
It's all right. Mr. Spangle edited the pause for a fee.
It's all right. The pause is genuine. Yeah, I guess I'm not so focused on people who made a difference in sports. I know it's important. It's huge for our city, but that's not where my mind goes. My mind goes to the people who are not in the spotlight in terms of leaders.
Let me give you a prompt.
Okay, go ahead.
Could your favorite Hoosier leader and or legend be the person who came up with the idea of Zubilation?
That's going to be interesting because about 12 people have told me it was their idea. And I'll tell you about how many people said I cut the ribbon when the zoo opened in 1988. I can't tell you how many people told me that. But no, I have an answer for you. And I'm going to give you an answer of a couple people, and this is very genuine, and these may not be the people that necessarily come to mind. I became but by the way, this is a very honest and authentic answer for me. I'll give you an answer of a couple people I really admire. When I was in the transition plan to become CEO here, and that was a prolonged thing. I think it was 2 or 3 years that it was certain that the board was going to name me as CEO. The date for that was January 1st of 2020, when I would take over CEO. My predecessor, Mike Crowther, retired, obviously, at that time. Absolutely nobody had a clue what was coming 8 weeks later.
Sure.
In 2020. And the board chair at the time, and this is one of the people I'd mentioned, is Jeff Harrison. Jeff Harrison was our board chair at the time, and
damn good man, CEO of Citizens.
What a good man. And so when I think of some of the questions you've asked me today, how do you be vital for the community? How do you keep things safe? How do you keep the zoo running? All those things. The challenges in 2020 to all of those things were profound. And I would say there are some sister organizations, zoos and aquariums around the country, that did not survive it well. There are a small number that didn't survive it really at all. And we came out of it stronger and better than we went into it. And I would say with profound gratitude that despite everything Jeff Harrison was dealing with professionally himself, which was massive, and we couldn't meet in person, we couldn't do any of that stuff, he was a constant source of support to me, thoughtfully, gently, and asked some of the really difficult questions that at the time a CEO with about 12 weeks of experience wouldn't think of. And his support was absolutely unbelievable. And when I say support, I also mean it in the sense of challenging me to say, by the way, there's no guarantee this is going to get better. What happens then? And working with him to develop those plans. Absolutely remarkable man. The other one that I would say, and I'm picking on board chairs here, which also tells you the quality of people that we have as board chairs, which I'm very proud of. The other one, Devin Anderson, who I'm sure. So you're laughing hard.
Because he is a close friend. He is, you know what? He's just beyond handsome. So it's my podcast. I can say that, right, Jake? He's the person who gave me my start in politics in 1992 when he was working for the Dan Coates for Senate campaign, and has always been on my side, by my side, and I'm thrilled to hear you mention his name.
Yeah, and I can tell you why. He was the person who was our next board chair. These are just coincidental things, but the level of personal support that he provided me then and now, but also the level of support for our organization, the people he has brought to our board has been absolutely extraordinary. And by the way, when I say personal support, that can at times, and he knows this because we've had this conversation, he can also at times be really harsh in his criticisms. And he was shocked when I said that to him. And he said, yeah, but it was meant to be supportive. And I said, those two things can be true simultaneously. You can say some really harsh things that were good for me to hear, but at the same time, they can be for my benefit and for the zoo's benefit. So I would say if I had to do that, and remember, my time here has been about 15 and a half years, I'm going to put those two guys up since I can't choose any of my original titans of Indianapolis.
If Scotty could beam you to any any zoo in the world right now, where would Scotty beam you to spend the day or the weekend, other than the Indianapolis Zoo?
No. Indianapolis Zoo is my favorite zoo. Yeah, I can give you a couple answers, and I'll give you I'll start with one that's unexpected. There is, in our community of accredited zoos and aquariums, some organizations are very small in terms of their footprint, meaning just the land they occupy or even their budget. And one of my most favorite is a place called the Tracy Aviary in Utah. And it is not a huge place, but the quality of what they do is absolutely incredible. And as you might imagine, it's only birds, since it's called an aviary. It's that relentless focus on quality that is really remarkable to me, and one that I really admire because it's not easy to do when you run a zoo. So that would be one. Gosh, the other one, if I had to go to any other zoo that Scotty could beam me to, and I do love Star Trek.
Can't promise there'd be a green woman there, but
that is a great episode. I guess I'm going to go to one of our biggest and most historic organizations in AZA. It's the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Monterey Bay Aquarium on the West Coast, obviously. They are so pure to their mission. They do such an extraordinary job, and they do it so consistently. Julie Packard's the CEO, who has announced her retirement, by the way. What an unbelievable and indelible impact that organization and that woman, Julie Packard, have had on conservation and on the zoo and aquarium community, and it's just a glorious place to visit. Those would be a couple examples.
What's your favorite Clint Eastwood movie?
None with orangutans.
You just hit my next question.
Yeah, probably.
Because?
Yeah. Oh, but wait. Because which part? The favorite movie?
No, because is it when watching, or if ever watched, Any Which Way You Can or Every
Yeah.
Which Way But Loose,
Yeah.
is it hard for you to watch? And here's the genesis of my question. I've had tons of historians, dozens, probably 100 at this point or more, on the podcast. We've posted about 320 episodes since the podcast started. And universally, historians have a very difficult time watching a movie about their research era.
Yeah.
So a medieval historian watching Braveheart just basically passes out. So, as someone with a PhD in biology, a world-renowned, recognized expert, can you watch a movie like that and divorce yourself from your chosen study?
No. And by the way, Unforgiven is the favorite.
Point.
So let me not bash Clint Eastwood, because he's a fine actor, incredible director, and at 90 whatever, still producing movies. I'd love to meet him. I never had. No, I can't. And I have to say, and I'm gonna not get too off track here, but what I think you're really what I'm responding to in your question is this idea of great apes being used in entertainment. And when I say great apes, there are 5 types. Orangutans, the ones that were in the Clint Eastwood movie, chimpanzees, gorillas, bonobos, which are very closely related to chimpanzees. A lot of people are not so familiar with them. And of course, biologically, the last type of great ape is us. It's humans. So of the non-human great apes, orangutans and chimpanzees have been used the most in entertainment, chimpanzees the very most. Without exception, using apes in entertainment is always a spectacularly bad thing for those apes in every way, without getting into the too many of the details. And it starts when they're infants. And that's because to use an ape in entertainment, it starts by taking that infant at birth or very close to birth and raising it with humans. Now, great apes have some of the longest and strongest and most profoundly important mother-infant bonds among all species. So imagine what it's like for that adult female chimpanzee orangutan, for example, to have a birth and have the baby pulled off of her forcefully, maybe every 18 months, every 24 months, over and over, so that baby can be used or sold or whatever. Some of the methods used to force great apes perform historically have been quite brutal. And the amount of time that an ape can be used for performing is usually relatively short compared to its lifespan. So they usually end up in a pretty bad circumstance afterwards, and then that's what they have for the rest of their life. So when I see an ape being used for entertainment or in a movie or a TV show or a stupid greeting card where its face is on there. By the way, that smile is an indication of fear, not happiness. What I know, because unfortunately I know too much, is I know what it took to put the ape in that circumstance, and it's vile. The other thing that's equally difficult about it is the perceptions that it creates for people and how it miseducates them. And it becomes very difficult then to compel people or persuade people to care about great ape welfare and great ape conservation when they form their attitudes based on apes in entertainment. By the way, all great apes are critically endangered in the wild, endangered or critically endangered in the wild. So as you can tell, it's a strong topic for me, but there's some good news. There are no great apes currently being used in the entertainment industry in the U.S., but there are some great apes being used for social media, reels, videos, whatever. Please don't support that. Please reject it. I promise the stories about that you're being told are not true. Those apes should not be in those circumstances. But I can bring it back home to what we're doing here in Indianapolis. In fact, the orangutans that were used in the Clint Eastwood movies all eventually made their way to them, and some of their offspring made their way to an entertainment compound in California. And I moved those orangutans out of that compound a number of years ago. And most of those remaining individuals now live here at Indianapolis. The last orangutan.
Is Clyde still alive?
Clyde is not.
Clyde is not?
No, Clyde died because of the treatment he received. The last performing orangutan in the United States, this is a fact. This becomes a historical fact. Last performing orangutan in the United States was, at the time, about a 3-year-old male who was used in some videos, commercials, layouts, photo layouts for magazines and so on, a male named Rocky. Rocky's now 20 years old and is about a 5-minute walk from where we're sitting. So he lives here at the zoo with the rest of our 11 orangutans here. And of our 21 chimpanzees, a good segment of those also historically came from entertainment. So that's one of the things that you name it, the circuses.
The circuses
TV,
have certainly gone away, or at least have been subject to severe criticism to the point where.
Yeah, I think I don't know of any circuses that are still using great apes in the U.S. There are a small number that use other domestic animals, horses, dogs, and so on. But the topic you bring up is a profoundly important one, because we know that the welfare of those apes is severely jeopardized, short-term or long-term, or both, by being used in entertainment. We also know it has a really negative impact on people's perceptions of great apes. We know that through published research that has looked at attitudes. So it's a great question that you ask, and I appreciate you bringing it up. And I would urge people, even though it's not, for example, movies right now, don't support it on social media. Don't support it in greeting cards or magazines or whatever. By the way, I will tell you my opinion of one of the most important ways that it ended. And it was the first of the rebooted Planet of the Apes movies, the one where Andy Serkis did the virtual chimpanzee that was in CGI. That was so real and so convincing and such a genuine character that I think after that, nobody would accept the kind of two-dimensional way apes were depicted as characters, the kind of degenerate people that they were made to depict. So those movies really revolutionized the industry, and I welcome that. Thank goodness. And by the way, if you are so inclined, you can look up the Captive Primate Safety Act, which is currently being considered and would be immensely helpful in ending the trade in great apes, for example, and private ownership.
Care to weigh in on the 100 men versus one gorilla?
Oh, good God.
All right, that's your answer. Have you?
No, I am going to weigh in on it. I am going to weigh in on it. I am. I'm going to weigh in on it for two reasons. It amazes me that one of the most frequent questions, and I've been working in the zoo community for over 40 years, one of the most frequent questions it's always some variant of, what would win in a fight, a lion or a bear?
Sure.
What would win in a fight? And everybody always goes for these kind of gladiator-style matchup things. I want to give credit to Robert Irwin, who had, I think, a brilliant response to this. I wish it was mine. It wasn't, but I can give him credit. He said, instead of asking who would win in a fight between 100 men and a gorilla, shouldn't we be asking, how many people does it take to save gorillas in the wild instead? How many people do we need to get together to really make a positive impact for great ape conservation? That's how we should be thinking about it, and stop the rest of this nonsense. By the way, gorilla.
Would it be close?
No.
One more question before we get to the 5 questions with which we end all of our podcasts. And I'm sorry, and we can edit this part.
Yeah.
If you don't like the question.
Yeah.
Have you ever said it? Have you ever said it?
I don't know what the question is.
Take your stinking paws off me.
Oh,
you damn dirty ape.
First of all,
you mentioned the Planet of the Apes. It was one of my questions.
Okay, just pause. First of all, it's the best science fiction movie ever made. It's fantastic.
It's brilliant.
Blade Runner second. But if you're going to use the quote, please get it right.
Give it to me.
Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape.
That's correct.
That was what? Oh, I like how you told me it was correct after you said it wrong.
How did I say it?
Take your dirty hands off me.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty.
Yeah.
Which was reenacted if you ever looked at the clip on Saturday Night Live.
Oh yeah, it was that is a brilliant, fantastic, incredible movie. And by the way, I don't think maybe a lot of people know, it's actually a novella. It's based on a novella.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic science fiction novella.
Pierre Boulle.
Yeah, Boulle. And the other thing that shocks people when you say it is the movie was originally a comment on racism. That's where it came from. It's a phenomenal, insightful, pivotal movie, and I would encourage anybody to watch the
original one.
Please avoid the Marky Mark version. Oh,
the
Mark Wahlberg.
Original one.
Come on.
And, that director didn't have a bad one, too. Franklin Schaffner directed the original Planet of the Apes.
Brilliant.
And then directed Patton.
Not bad.
Almost immediately afterward.
Not bad.
So, yes or no?
I have said it quoting the movie. Absolutely.
But you haven't said it in your official duties.
Oh, no. But it's a great line, and it was fantastic. It's a good one.
I read an article once that was just about Rod Serling's ending. Because the Twilight Zone guy, he's the one who came up with the ending.
Oh, yeah.
The Statue of Liberty ending. And it was so completely different than anything.
Not the same as the book.
Nope. And I think that inaugurated the makeup award.
I think it is. I can't remember the makeup guy's name, but John Goodman played him.
Chambers.
Yeah, John Goodman played him in a movie.
Argo.
Oh, he's phenomenal. The makeup was incredible.
5 question time.
Okay. I don't know these. I didn't preview.
Your PR guy didn't give you these questions, even though he's answered them himself?
Nope.
What was your first job?
Paid job, like at a job? Yeah, McDonald's.
God, that's so good. What was your first concert? Please say it's the Monkees.
Oh, I love this question so much because it's going to be so unexpected. Sonny and Cher at Merriweather Post Pavilion. And they were great.
Anyone else who remember when they had a TV show? I know Spangles.
Yes, Sonny and Cher.
Number 3, if you could suggest any book for someone to read, which book would you recommend?
Oh, man, that is a long list, but I'm going to suggest one that hits the theme of a lot of what we talked about. It's a book called The Third Chimpanzee, written by Jared Diamond. Jared Diamond.
Oh, is a famous historian, yeah.
Jared Diamond is just a brilliant scientist and extraordinary writer. And he wrote this incredible book called The Third Chimpanzee because there are many biologists who would say that humans, chimpanzees, and bonobos should all be classified more similarly or under the same genus than we are now. And he delves into that topic in detail. So it's really a comment on science and humans and grade 8 behavior. It's a wonderful book, The Third Chimpanzee.
I think he's the author of Guns, Germs,
Germs, and Steel.
If you haven't read that book.
Which is also a phenomenal book. Subsequent. Third Chimpanzee's older now. It's a good one. By the way, can I do 2?
Yes, sir.
On the same topic, a book called Chimpanzee Politics, written by a guy named Franz de Waal, who died just months ago. A wonderful scientist, wonderful friend of mine, brilliant man, called The Third Chimpanzee. If you want to, it's the best book ever written on grade 8 social behavior.
If you could witness any event in history, be there in person as it happens, which event would you choose?
An event?
An event.
Boy, I think I might Yeah, this is a good one. So I'm an evolutionary biologist, and I'm going to do a totally selfish answer.
That's okay.
Charles Darwin had a pathway that he walked daily or near daily to contemplate whatever was on his mind. I'm going to stretch the question a tiny bit and say I would love to be able to have walked on that pathway with Charles Darwin when he was facing his personal struggle about publishing on the origin of species because of his own concerns about religion and what it would do in terms of religious conflict. So I would have loved to walk that path with him and understand his personal conflict.
I would have loved to have had him on the podcast just so I could ask, is social Darwinism a perversion of Darwinism, or is it a natural offsuit? Number 5, if you could have dinner with anyone living today, 2 hours off the record just to chat, whom would you choose?
I'm going to give an inflammatory answer. I think it would be incredible to have a conversation with Elon Musk.
He was never mentioned as a guest in the first 250 episodes, Chris, that we did. But since he bought X or Twitter, he has popped up, and SpaceX and all the other things, he has popped up frequently as someone who just like, I've had people say don't like his politics, don't like what X has become, but to have that much success in front of you for 2 hours, that much genius.
Yeah. And it has nothing to do with his politics at all. I am probably the least political person you could imagine. I would have no interest in talking about his politics. What I would want to talk about is, what is it like to be someone who is redefining so many aspects of our society, and by the way, has the resources to do it. That there aren't very many people who have ever had that kind of influence, and I think it would be fascinating.
You have been listening to Leaders and Legends, a podcast presented by Veteran Strategies. We are an Indiana-based public relations enterprise and federally certified veteran-owned small business. As always, all our podcast interviews are dedicated to the legacy and generosity of P.E. McAllister. Our guest today, Dr. Rob Shumaker, President and CEO of the Indianapolis Zoo. I must say, it's wonderful to meet you.
Thank you.
And give thanks to the millions of listeners, to Jake Oakman, who's just one of the most liked, smartest people I've ever met. And I'm not joking. And Chris Spangle, who said for a long time, you got to get this guy on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert. My pleasure.
Thank you very much for listening to Leaders and Legends, brought to you by Veteran Strategies Incorporated. If you want to contact us about this program or our menu of public relations services, please send us an email at robert@veteranstrategies.com. That's robert@veteranstrategies.com.